Hello and welcome to this Fallout 4 settlement tour video. This is XtremeWackazoid and today we are looking at County Crossing. This is on the PS4. I'm using a number of mods which are listed below. County Crossing is a medium-sized build area with some sloping hills and some terraces and a little bit of water. And so I'm going to give you a quick tour, and hopefully this will give you a few ideas of what you can do with the space. And what I wanted to do here is to have it look kind of like a tenement housing that surrounds a garden, which is where they're growing their crops. And also this is one of the few places where I'm farming a lot of purified water. One of the first decisions I make when I build is where I'm going to put my power source. I typically put it up high, and I definitely surround it by a barrier because attackers will definitely go after it. So my power source is in here, and it is surrounded by concrete, and I do that because attackers will go after it and they can pretty much only hit it with a grenade. I have minigun turrets and heavy laser turrets, and I raise them up on these ball track supports with a platform, and I do that so that they'll be free from melee attackers. So I'm going to show you this kind of tenement housing with vendor stations. I have, I believe, 8 settlers here. I typically have just the efficient number of farmers, 4 vendors, and a provisioner. I think it's a little more realistic, and I build with a lot of wood and a lot of metal, so it looks kind of junky, and it looks like the settlers really did just go get a bunch of scraps and then build with it. And I have all the settlers here wearing the same outfit. I like to do that because it looks kind of creepy, and here they're wearing these baseball uniform outfits with ballistic weave in their clothing and in their hats as well. So this right here, as you enter this kind of tenement housing, is the restaurant area. I like to build a restaurant area because settlers will come and congregate here after a day's work and rest up, and it looks like they line up to order food and then sit down and eat. And so I'm using these ceiling fan lighting, and with the restaurant and these tier 3 vendors, I like to place items in the shelves so it looks like they're actually selling something, and I like it to look like a functioning restaurant if I have the space. And so here is some cabinetry and oven, grill, a sink, a Ethreon, ice bucket, and I place items with this OCDecorator mod. And so they're growing mute fruit here as well as tato. And so here's some of the residences. And what I wanted it to look like was kind of apartment flats where they go all together with interior walls. So this is just a pretty good example of the residences. Just a 2 square plot with shelving, and I typically like to put some kind of container underneath their bed so it looks like they have some kind of a go bag. If I lived in a wasteland, I would want to have my possessions ready to go in case I needed to leave quickly. So I won't show every single one of them, but I think you're getting the idea. They're all these kind of 2 plots. Here's my junk vendor. And what I did was I used an interior wall here so that it looks like a storefront where his residence is right behind where he works. With these shelves, I like to look like they're actually selling something, and so I build the shelves out into a space where you can use a select all trick with a concrete pillar, and then I raise and lower the shelf and place items with the OCDecorator mod. So there's a little interior wall, half wall, to block off his residence. Same thing with the clinic vendor. I like to give them lab coats so it looks like they're actual doctors, and they have a gurney and a wheelchair, and then their residence is right behind. And then here's the clothing vendor, and I like to use these armor stands so it looks like they're actually selling clothing. and then there's this interior half wall that blocks off the residence here. And so it's kind of built into the ground, like in this little valley of these small hills. And I really wanted it to like kind of fit perfectly into the hills, so I ended up just building the whole thing and then using the select all trick with the whole thing and moving it until I was satisfied. And if you're going to do that type of thing, you just want to make sure you can have a decent number of rows for your food that all kind of fit within this piece of land, and then you want to make sure that your floors will all fit into the ground. So I did an alright job with that. This is the existing structure as you come on up to County Crossing, and this was a shack, but what I did was I turned this into the restroom, and so there's a shower here, a sink, and a toilet, and it's really just enough space to fit all of that in there. Most places I typically have like one water filter or water purifier. I like it to look kind of realistic, but this is one of the few areas where I'm actually I have a number of them, and it has a decent resale value, so there is some value in doing that. I typically don't do that because I don't think it's terribly realistic. But with County Crossing, if you're familiar with this space, over there is like a former army barracks, and there's some turrets that spawn in, and there's some ghouls, feral ghouls that spawn in, and so you want to have defenses set up for attacks from there. And what I noticed was the turrets would actually shoot into my settlement if I even got somewhat close to it. And so what I did was I put barriers around these water filters, and so these are just junk fence walls that I used a concrete pillar and a select all trick to kind of build into the ground. And then I did them all together, and then I used a select all trick to kind of move it so that it fit around these water purifiers. And so that made a pretty good defense against those attackers. And here's kind of a lounge area that's surrounded by this campfire that was pre-existing, some lounge chairs and some umbrellas. And there was another campfire that was pre-existing, so I put a fire spit over that. So hopefully this will give you a few ideas of what you can do with the space. If you like what you see, hit like, and you can subscribe to the channel. Thank you.